Welcome back to Cobra Kai Nation, Julia. I'm so glad to have you back. It was a blast talking to you about season 4, but I was just saying to you now how cool it was to see you back in season 5.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was, it was a joy to be back for season 5. And this show has just gotten so huge. So many characters, so many different plot points and plot lines. And so I truly didn't expect it, but it was a lovely surprise to be asked to come back, and we had a lot of fun. It's a great season, and I'm thankful to even be a small part of it.
Right. Because I was saying to you last time how cool it was to see you interact with obviously work with your father Ralph, but then
Mm.
work with Courtney and doing that really funny scene about them as parents and sort of counseling them because no
Yeah.
one's really actually done that.
Yeah.
But we saw Ness in a different way this time, sort of just aside from all the counseling, just her like having fun. And
Mhm.
like I love the way we just see you like in episode 9. And yeah, just tell me how it felt like being involved in that scene because like it was a very fun scene. It was a very positive episode amidst all the chaos going on in season 5. It was
Yes.
the characters could let loose, they could have a bit of fun.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it's the fun club episode. I mean, I refer to this season as Karate Game of Thrones because it gets so big and so intense. And everyone does such an amazing job. But this is the episode where obviously if you've watched the season, it's like, everyone's kind of letting loose and they're celebrating and then of course, everything it kind of hits the fan. But so I knew going in, when I found out that they were asking me to come back and that I was in the episode 509 draft. I actually ended up seeing John Hurwitz, one of the creators of the show, a couple of days later because I was in Atlanta at the time, just visiting. And so he explained to me, what that episode is or is going to be, and then also how I would fit into that and the whole Anoush and Louis thing. Um,
Right.
and so it was just such a blast to be there with everyone filming that episode because it is the fun episode. And I had never met Dan before, who plays Anoush. I had obviously met Brett because we worked together in season 4, but to get to hang out with the two of them and work with both of them was so much fun. It was a lot of improving. Just between every take, we were laughing. It was such a great time. So it was a lot of fun to be there, and yeah, to think of like, okay, who is this character? Who is Ness like outside of when she's just with her family? Like, she's on a date. So like it was a quick little thing, but it was just fun, and it kind of leaves the door open um, you know, for Ness and Anoush to like, maybe are they gonna be a thing? Are they gonna keep
Right.
seeing each other? I mean, we hear that at the end of the episode how he's talking about how he likes her and all that. So I like that it kind of leaves that door open too. So it was so much fun. We had such a great time filming.
Right. It was really funny just seeing, like, obviously, we see Anoush in the club. We're like, oh, he's with someone. Okay. And then
Right.
you just turn around. It's like, oh, it's Julia. And then, like, I was just, what I'd like to think is, like, how that came to be. Because obviously, we don't know the little story of how.
Right, like,
Um,
how did they meet, you mean, in the
right.
show? We talked about that, so this is I actually haven't talked about this yet, but I had gotten to Atlanta a few days before I had to film because you have your wardrobe fitting and you wanna get a little settled in, and so I was on set, this was a few days before I filmed, and Brett and Dan were both filming because they were doing the scene where they're in the dealership talking about, like, going out to the club, where
Right.
Anush is like, "Congrats on procreating, I can't come because I have a date." And so I was hanging out with them a little bit, like, between, when they were, like, setting up different shots and things like that, and I remember I was talking to Dan, and we were like, "Okay, so, like, where would these two have met?" Like, we were trying to brainstorm like a backstory here. And he was like, maybe you came into the dealership like looking for Louis, but then I was there and we kind of hit it off. And we kind of decided this is not the writers, this is just us like brainstorming.
Hmm.
We were like, oh, maybe this is like, episode 509 is like their third date. So it's not their first date. It's like they've been, it's in the beginning, but they're still kind of feeling it out, but they like each other. So we did kind of brainstorm that. I don't know if that's what the writers had in mind or if it even crossed their minds, but that's what we kind of decided on.
Right. Yeah. Because You know, like I remember, I think Anusha a while ago, he used to use a dating app,
Uh-huh.
and it would be quite. I think it was. I can't remember what season it was. I think it was very early few seasons into Cobra Kai, and I just thought, was
Yeah.
it for like a was it like a whole like Tinder thing, like
Oh
with
my gosh. I don't
Johnny
know
and like
how
Miguel when he
much
was
I
trying to
could
like
do.
help him with the dates? It would have been really funny if it was like that.
I almost wanna know what, like, fans would think, like, how do you think the 2 of them met? Like, I wanna open the floor, because I don't know, I'm just interested to see what people would say, because it is such a random pairing. Like, you never I remember when I heard that, I was like, "That's awesome," and I also never would have thought of that ever. But I love particularly, like, TV or film couples where you wouldn't put them together, and they're so different, but that's kind of why they work. Like, I love the idea of the 2 of them dating, um, because
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's great. It's great writing. The writing on the show is just I can't praise the writers enough because they never miss a beat. They know what they're doing. And
Yeah, they've really shown like how they can bring back characters and it's not like forced. It's written so well. Just an
right, it's
example is
organic.
like
Yeah.
Mike and Jessica, how they came back into the fold. Like that was so well written, and like
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that creators are great at doing, understanding what not just fans want, but what really makes sense for
Yeah.
the bigger story. You know, I love the connection with Amanda being related to Jessica. I think that was so smart.
I
Like again, no
so
one
love
would have probably
that
seen that.
too. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I feel like especially when you're dealing with any kind of nostalgia project, something that this is, the Karate Kid franchise has been around since the early mid 1980s. And so when you're doing any kind of like a reboot, it could be, I'm sure it could be easy to just be like, "Oh, we need to plug this in because that's what fans
Mm,
want," or "We need to plug that in." And then you could get so lost in that maybe that's not what's serving the story or that's not what would be unfolding organically, but the
mm,
writers are just so good at, like you said, they give they deliver what people want to see with certain surprises, and it never feels forced. Like it always feels like, "Oh, okay, this is unfolding in an organic way, maybe a way that you wouldn't expect." But I would imagine that would be like a tough balance, if you will. Like I'm like quoting the show about balance, but I would imagine that would be challenging. But they do such a great job, and I love um, every character that they bring back. It's just so well done, and everyone is so good on the show. Really,
exactly. Like speaking of character returns, I mean, seeing Yuji back in the way we did was
I know.
phenomenal, and being seeing him like enjoy himself for once in again episode 9, that must have been really funny
Oh
seeing
my gosh.
Yuji.
He was well, because I don't know if people know, like, how you have to film a scene or, like, a sequence like that, like a club scene. Um, it takes a all day. Like, we were in that club for a few days and, you have a
Wow.
lot of extras, you have to get so many different angles, you have a few different storylines going on, you have different conversations, so there's a lot of filming that has to be done, and one of the things that they have to get is they have to get B-roll, so, like, footage of everyone kind of dancing and having fun or whatever, where there's no dialogue happening. And so they would just like play music and have the cameras rolling. And I got to watch a lot of that because I was only in one portion of that.
Mm.
I wasn't with like, Daniel, Amanda, Chozen, all of them. So I remember watching them film, and Yuji would just go in and out of the frame. Like he would like run one way and be like bopping around, and we were just cracking up. It was I don't think I've ever laughed harder on a set. It was just, we like couldn't contain ourselves. I was like, thank God I'm not on camera right now because I was just losing it. It was so much fun
I
to watch
would
them.
I think I would that's probably the last thing you expected when you were coming into season 5 is you're gonna see Chosen be dancing like in that
Drunkenly.
form.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Like
He's so
uh
good. He's so good in this season. I mean, everybody is. Thomas, everybody. But I love seeing, Chosen and Daniel together, or even
oh
Chosen and Johnny together. Like it's like that unexpected. You would never think that you were gonna see, like that you'd see those pairings, but they just work, and it's so engaging and it's so well done.
That's exactly why I love this show. Just you can see the clear passion in everything that
Yeah.
happens in the show. Like every character that's involved, like how they bring you in as well, and like it all complements the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like each season they do this more and more. It just gets better and better. Like
It does. It does. I know I might be biased, but I agree. I agree. I think
I might be biased too, but yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
it's it must have been fun as well being able to, Cobra Kai's got loads of action in it. Some characters like, Courtney, it must have been nice for her to be involved in sort of like a brawl in that scene with Robin.
Yeah.
But like, it's sometimes hard to be involved in the karate because some characters aren't. So how
Mhm.
did it feel, sort of like being involved doing that little slap on Brett? That must have been funny.
That little slap. It was honestly, it was so much fun. I mean, I just have to shout out the stunt team of the show. I mean, they are so incredible. They're Emmy nominated. I mean, they
Mm.
just what they do is I don't think people understand how much choreo goes into the show, like, and how quick the turnarounds are. Like, I mean, I haven't done like the karate that most of the cast members are doing. Like I did one slap, but like even just in that one day, what they have to do, like you have to do a quick rehearsal, and you have to make sure and nobody got hurt. Like it's so easy when you're running on such a tight schedule for people to maybe get hurt. And the stunt team is they're so on it. They're choreographing all these different fight scenes, they're rehearsing, they're filming. Sometimes they're doing double up days where you're shooting two different episodes or like two different locations at once. It's amazing. So getting to do a little bit of action, I mean, on the spectrum of the action of Cobra Kai, I was a little bit lower, like compared to what is done on the show. It's so incredible. But it was fun getting to do that. I mean, I also feel like it's very on brand for like what Ness would do. Like she would
Yeah.
totally, if her brother was messing with her date, she would slap him. Like it's just what she would do. So it was fun. It was empowering, and I felt safe. Like I said, the stunt team is amazing. They were making sure that, we felt comfortable and we knew what we were doing. And um they had doubles for Brett and Dan for, like when Brett has to take that fall because Dan tackles him. Like they had a stunt double like swap in and out. And I felt very safe, very comfortable. And so then we were able to have fun and do some improv with like what we were shouting at each other. It was like a comedy improv acting class because there was a lot going on. So it was I want Ness to do a fight. Like I'm
Oh, I would love that.
I want her to do a fight. We're gonna put it out into the universe. Um, but yeah, it was so much fun.
I
We had
mean,
a good time.
I think it'll be. I mean, considering everything that's going on, like you said, this is like the karate Game of Thrones, especially this season.
Yeah.
Um, like with everything going on in the valley, I would assume certain characters would just want to know some self defense. Especially like Amanda and Carmen, considering everything. So like
Yeah.
Ness was to sort of want to learn a few moves from a
Yeah.
relative.
Right.
Being a Larusso, yeah, like
Yeah.
you could learn
Nobody
a
is
few
safe.
things.
Nobody is safe. It's like, okay, this is it's really intense, but it works. It just works. People love it. So yeah.
Okay, so who do you think has the best dance moves? I know we spoke about Yuji, and that must have been fun, but like, if
Oh,
let's say there was like a Cobra Kai cast dance battle,
oh my
and
god.
like the cast were all involved, involving yourself as well, who do you think would actually win?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I I will say Tanner's a really good dancer. Tanner, who plays
Yeah,
Robbie. He's a really good dancer. I believe that he actually I think he took maybe
he
tap.
took ballet.
Maybe. I know I think he's done tap because I feel like I've spoken to him about this
Actually,
before.
it might have been tap. Yeah.
But I know that he has a dance background, and he's a really good dancer. So I would say he's up there for sure. But we've got some good movers. The reality is like if you can pick up fight choreography, and if you're like the athleticism that's involved with the show, if you can do that, you're aware of your body, you can move. So I feel like we'd be a team of like strong movers. We are a team of strong movers in the show. So, but yeah, Tanner's up there, definitely.
Tanner for the dance battle. I like that. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be fun to. it'd be funny if at some point we do kind of get to see, like the young characters and like Daniel and Johnny. They're sort of all celebrating and they all kind of like compete in this little dance off. That'd be really funny.
Yeah, Cobra Kai the musical. That
Well,
will
Karate Kid musicals happen, so
It's
that's the next
happening,
step.
yeah. My friend Drew is writing the music for it or wrote the music for it. So that's I'm very excited for that, and I've heard really great things about it. So, yeah.
I'd love to check it out. Hopefully, it comes to the UK as well because I've heard very good
Yeah.
things about it.
Yeah.
Um, the production looks insane for it, so I'm assuming you've seen it.
I actually haven't seen it. I
Oh,
was gonna try to get there because they did their, like, pre-Broadway, like, run, but I wasn't able to get there because of scheduling. So hopefully I can get there when it comes to it's I think it's coming to Broadway, so I will definitely be there because I've heard great things about it. I'm really interested to see, what they've done from film to stage because anytime you're changing the medium, things are gonna, I think it'll be surprising, based on what I've heard from Drew, but I don't want to say too much. I would love to see it. Yes.
I'm not normally like a musical person, but like anything Karate Kid, Cobra Kai related. I mean, I'm really interested. So like that's something I would love to see and how they go about it because I've heard the storytelling for it is beautiful. So like
Yeah.
I'd definitely love to see that. Can you imagine a imagine a little musical about Ness and
Oh my
Anush and
gosh.
how they sort of met each other?
How they met each other. Yeah, how we met. I have seen people on like Twitter like wanting a spinoff for like Louis, Anoush, and Ness. I'm like, I'm in. I am into it. I
What do you reckon? What do you reckon it'd be about?
I don't know. It would have to be like a half hour sitcom-y, like that kind of style. I don't know. I mean, hey, in this day and age, you never know. You never know. But I will say, working with those two has been or was such a highlight. I mean, they truly are they're great guys to be around and they're so funny when the cameras are rolling, but they're also so funny when the cameras aren't rolling. Like it was just I I got to pick their brains a little bit about comedy because they're both stand-up, comedians, and they're both so talented and just such down-to-earth people. So any chance that I could get to work with them or hang out with them is I'll take it. So
For sure, yeah. You can learn a lot from them considering how amazing they are as comedians and
yeah, yeah, they're
I mean
great.
that's that must be it must be difficult but really fun to do that sort of profession. And also doing it for like a show like Cobra Kai and being able to do that like
Mhm.
those moments you get with Ness like it must bring you joy knowing like people get like a joy out of just maybe that one scene you were in or just the
Yeah.
way it sort of impacts people even if it's just that one laugh.
Yeah, no, it's really I mean, I was saying this on a podcast that I was doing, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, but like when you're a new character on a show or you're being brought into a world that's already been established, you don't know how that's going to be received. Um,
Mm.
so I'm just thankful that people are loving the show and watching the show, and it's so global now because of Netflix and the platform that they have. But I'm thankful that people like Ness and that they find her entertaining. And again, that comes down to really great writing and it fits. It had to make sense and it does make sense. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, the show is so big and it's karate Game of Thrones. So then when you have moments where you can laugh and it's just kind of a totally different flavor, I think people take to that and I'm grateful that they do. So I'm just thankful to be a part of it, a part of this universe, that just keeps expanding and expanding.
Right. It's looking really bright for the future of the show and just what they've got planned, like in the future, because there's so much they can do with it. If it's in the form of a prequel, something after the show, like there's so much. I mean, I know the creators want to do a lot with it and expand, but
Yeah.
yeah, like we said earlier on, that there's so much to come with this show, and we'll obviously hopefully see more Ness as well. It'll be great.
Yeah, oh
Um,
my gosh, I would love that. I love playing her. She's so much fun, and I love being dressed up as her, everything, the whole 9 yards. So,
just embodying it.
yeah, yeah, she's so much fun. I love her.
Did you film any other scenes in season 5?
So I did, and the scene didn't get cut, but what happened was, so I initially was only supposed to be in the club scene where you find out that Ness and Anoush are together, and then the boys tackle and all that. And then I was originally supposed to just like storm off and be like, you guys deserve each other, like goodbye. But obviously, if you've seen the show, you see that I stay with them and I'm actually trying to break it up. So that was a rewrite that happened on the day because they ended up writing Ness into the scene where Louis and Anoush are leaving the club, where they're outside and they're kind of drunkenly apologizing to each other. And Brett is saying, I just get protective. And then Dan is like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I really like her. So I was written into that scene. But then, these episodes they're so long and they have to eventually trim them down. So my footage for like my stuff in that scene ended up being cut. So I did film that scene, but didn't end up, I am technically not in that scene in the episode, in the final cut of the episode. But yeah, it's cool. I feel like sometimes these rewrites happen and I feel like sometimes people like hearing about them because it's something that you never would know, but that was a rewrite that happened on the day in the club. And that's why there was so much improv, because I wasn't supposed to stay with the boys once they were like fighting on the floor. But then because I had been written into that other scene, they were like, you have to stay with them. So then we just ended up improving all this stuff. And it was fun to see like what came out. I think one of Brett's lines that he improved is in the final cut. And he's like, you're ruining my $200 shirt or something like that. Like it was just the ad libs were just flying. So yes, to answer your question, I was in that one other scene. But then because of how they ended up editing it, I wasn't in the final cut of it.
Right. It probably makes sense because, like, it kind of leaves it more open,
Yeah.
Like, Ness isn't like, oh, she's done with the news. That's it. Oh, we
Yeah.
know like Ness is related to Louis, so we could see her in that way. But yeah, just it kind of leaves it a bit more open. So maybe it's
Yeah. And Anusha's talking about how much I think he says, he's like, I'm sorry, man. I really like her. So it's like, okay, will they, won't they? What's going to happen? You just don't know.
right.
You just don't
Where do
know.
you see it going? Do you think like they really like each other? I mean, if I've not obviously seen each other just once.
I mean, it's not up to me, really. But I like I said before, I love the idea of the two of them together. So I mean, hopefully that lends itself to maybe more opportunities for them to be. I don't know. You just with the show, you just never know. You just never know. But I will say it was such a blast to get to do that episode. And like I said, it was unexpected. I really didn't expect to be back for season 5. So it was such a pleasant surprise, and we had the most wonderful time. It was so much fun.
For sure. It was a blast talking to you again, Julia. Thank you for coming
Oh,
on, sharing those little
thank you.
stories. It's always fun discussing with you, and yeah, I really hope we see Ness again.
I know. I hope, hey, fingers crossed. But thank you so much for the lovely conversation. And thanks for what you do too. This is
Oh,
awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I just love what you guys give us. We really appreciate it, and we're always going to support it. So, just
Thank
big
you.
credit to you all, and yeah, just thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you.
Thank you so much. And we are.